עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה
Shalom. Our Torah portion for this week is Parashat Trumah. And it opens with the 25th chapter of the book of Exodus. These are the opening verses. The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelites, and they shall take to me a portion from every person whose heart will motivate them. You shall take my portion. And this is the portion you shall take from them: gold and silver and copper and turquoise wool and purple wool and scarlet wool, linen and goat's hair, ram skins that are dyed red and dolphin skins and acacia wood, oil for lights, spices for anointing oil, and for the raising of smoke of the incense, lapis lazuli stones and filling stones for the ephod and the choshen. They shall make me a sanctuary so that I may dwell among them." What has happened to the Jewish people up to this point? We see that they have been rescued from slavery in Egypt. They were provided with manna to eat. They have received the Ten Commandments. God has defended them from marauding clans in the Sinai Peninsula, and God has provided them with the Ten Commandments. Not only that, God has helped to install among the Jewish people a judicial system, so they now are much more settled. They are now living in a situation that was much less desperate than it was previously. And then we have this Torah portion, which doesn't deal with matters that seem to be so grave as the Exodus from Egypt, matters not as majestic as the giving of the Ten Commandments, not with matters as serious as defending the Jewish people or feeding the Jewish people, but matters that seem to be somewhat trivial. God now wants a sanctuary to be built among the Jewish people, and we have this long list of items that will go into the building of the sanctuary. God says every person, and God makes it very clear, every person whose heart so moves him or her to give should give whatever they can. It has to be a voluntary contribution. And we have this long interior decorators list of what the sanctuary, what the tabernacle, the Mishkan, this dwelling place for God, should look like. Now, is it trivial? Is this not an important matter? Some people speak of what they call an aesthetic imperative. That is to say that after a human being has a roof over their head, after a person has enough food in his or her stomach, after a person is safe and has their basic needs met, there is this longing in human beings to beautify their surroundings. So you have a house, that's nice. Obviously you need a house. You need a place in which to take shelter. But after you have a house, you want to put a garden out in front of the house. You want to paint the house in a way that shows who you and your family are as human beings. You want to decorate it in a way that expresses your values. If you're a formal person, use formal furniture. If you're a more casual person, you buy furniture that you can put your feet up on. If you're Jewish, you want to put a mezuzah up on the doorpost. You want Jewish art to be displayed on the walls. You want ritual objects. You want that house to express who you are. There is a term in Hebrew called hidur hamitzvah, which means the beautification of the mitzvah. It's not enough just to do the mitzvah. We want to do it with panache. We want to do it with aesthetics. We want to express our innermost love for what we're doing by or through aesthetic or artistic expression. For example, look at this beautiful representation of the Aron Kodesh, that is the Holy Ark in which the tablets of the Ten Commandments were kept. Notice that it wasn't just enough to provide a box, a closet. Our ancestors were commanded to build an ark that was covered with cherubims and angels. And look at this beautiful acacia wood down here. There's a lot of gold that was used in this very beautiful place in which to keep the Decalogue. Look at this gorgeous 7-branch candelabrum, the menorah, that was also part of the fixtures of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. Look how absolutely beautiful they were. Look at the flowers on each of the light holders. There's a little bowl here for the oil. It was stunning, and it was made, of course, of pure Every synagogue gold. Has a door through which to enter, to pray and to study. But that's not enough. When we come into the synagogue, we want to be reminded that we're entering a holy place. Now, God is everywhere, of course, but we provide God with, or we provide ourselves actually, with a sanctuary, a synagogue, a place that we dedicate to the possibility of encountering God. And notice these beautiful copper doors that we have here at Temple Bethel. Each of these doors is a representation. These two doors are a representation of the menorah that existed in the Mishkan in ancient days and are mentioned or is mentioned in this week's Torah portion. And here in our sanctuary we have other examples of hidur hamitzvah. This is our Aron Kodesh, our ark in which we keep the Torahs. Notice that we have a representation of the Ten Commandments. We begin obviously with Aleph and we end here with Yud. And we could have just had a box, but that wasn't enough. We needed in some way or other to express our devotion to the Torah. And so we beautify the ark in which we carry, in which we hold the Torah. Now notice the ritual objects on the Torah. We always have a beautiful, every synagogue covers its Torahs with beautiful mantles. And we have breastplates. Look at our breastplates here. We have, again, a representation of the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments. We have the lions of Judah. We have a crown and an eagle on top. We have the two columns representing Solomon's temple, which had two freestanding columns. Often Torahs have crowns, and these are crowns with little bells on them, because the priest in ancient Israel, in the ancient temple, wore a garment around the hem of which were bells. And these are ways that we perform Hidur mitzvah, the beautification of performing a mitzvah. So we see Hidur mitzvah, that impulse, that human impulse to beautify one's surroundings, to express one's values aesthetically and artistically, to be perfectly legitimate. Now, it is possible to overdo Hidur HaMitzvah. It is possible, and sometimes it does happen, when families, for example, overspend in bar and bat mitzvah parties, going into debt for the celebration of a simcha. Sometimes synagogues take on mortgages much bigger than they should and overburden their congregations. But this week's Torah portion gives us some wisdom concerning the balance between our values and the artistic expression of our values. If you read a little further into the portion, you will find the instructions on how to make the Aron Kodesh, the Holy Ark. And what does it say? It says that we should overlay it outside with gold. And we are also to overlay it inside with gold. And the question has arisen over the years, why inlay the inside of the ark with gold? Certainly the outside makes sense because everyone sees it, but who's going to see the inside of the ark? And it has been suggested that the Torah says inside and outside to remind us that we need to find the balance between our values, our inner lives, our spiritual lives, and the way we artistically and aesthetically and materially express those values. And so I suppose you could say that this week's Torah portion says to be a beautiful person, inside and out, to have those values, to have the passion for your religion, for your God, and those principles for which you stand, and to find the balance in the way that you express those in your outer life. So I hope you read Parashat Trumah and come to your own conclusions. Shabbat Shalom.